All right, ESPN's got something to say about who Georgia's biggest strength is coming into this 2025 season. I'm not sure it's who you think it is. You might be thinking quarterback, offensive line. Mark Schlabach, our old buddy from back in the day, he's got this to say. He says, most teams would take a step back after losing an all SEC linebacker to a conference rival via the transfer portal. Kentucky's not a Georgia rival, but okay. And one of its top young linebackers to his father's alma mater. But Georgia's linebacking core might still be the best in college football, even after Jamon Dumas-Johnson transferred to Kentucky and Marvin Jones Jr. left for Florida State. Kirby Smart has stacked up 4- and 5-star linebackers like Cordwood over the last few seasons. Smile Munden, the number one athlete in the class of 2021, according to ESPN, has grown into a dominant inside linebacker. Sophomores C.J. Allen and Raylan Wilson were the number two recruits at inside and outside backer in 23, respectively. Junior Jalen Walker was the number 3 outside linebacker in 2022. The Bulldogs just added the number 1 linebacker, Justin Williams, and number 1 outside linebacker, Chris Cole, in their most recent recruiting class. While Georgia might no longer have a dominant superstar on its defensive line like Jalen Carter or Jordan Davis, it has plenty of star power behind it. It does. I want to talk about what Mark said just there at the end just for a second, because I do think that that's really important. I mean, one of the reasons why Nakobe Dean was so effective, and really all the Quay Walker, I mean, whoever you want to talk about linebacker for Georgia in 21, was because of how good that defensive line was. I mean, Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, those 3 schools specifically, not as much LSU, and to some degree Michigan, used their defensive line to power themselves to national championships. It's not as dominant coming into 24 or in 2024 as it's been in the past for Georgia. Will that prevent them from winning the SEC championship and beyond? I don't know. I think that's a good question, actually. I think that's one of the best questions that maybe we're not talking about, because you're returning Nazir Stackhouse. You're returning Warren Brinson. I mean, you got some guys that are coming back, but they're not certain first round NFL guys. Devontae Wyatt, Jordan Davis, Trayvon Walker, Jalen Carter. I mean, that Jalen Carter didn't start on Georgia's 2021 team. Now, he played a lot, don't get me wrong, but that let the linebackers go do their things. In basketball, if you got really good big men, but they can't get the ball because your guards aren't where they need to be, well, they're limited. But linebackers are not. That's not completely a crazy thing to say about linebackers either. If your D-line is not totally where you want it to be, your linebackers might not be either. Everybody might not be, just because they set the tone. The defensive line sets the tone. So I think that is one thing to pay attention to. But with that said, leaving Small Munden to the side for a second, Allen, Wilson, Williams, Cole. So Justin Williams may be a complete breakout player, and that just might just be what it is. Georgia's got some really good players at linebacker. Munden, Chambliss, Walker, Bowles. I mean, they got guys. Allen and Pimba, Harris. You've got some guys. But I think the addition of Williams and Cole, Williams specifically is what we hear the most about. Now, we'll just see where it goes. I mean, it's March. We don't know what March 2025 is going to look like, let alone after that. But Kirby, I was talking with somebody earlier today about why it's working at Georgia. And it took time, but Georgia has built a machine. And if you know how to run the machine's going to produce wins. And that's what's happening at Georgia. It's that simple. That the linebackers are so good helps with that. I mean, again, Small Munden is exceptionally good. He just is. But C.J. Allen was playing a lot last year before Jamon Dumas-Johnson got hurt. So, C.J. Allen was coming one way or the other. I don't know. This is not the NFL where you're asking your middle linebackers to play a ton of downs. Excuse me. This is the college football where guys are going to have to play on special teams and this, that, and the other. it is really good to have depth at linebacker because that is the position that and tight end and running backs really. Well, that tight ends and defensive backs, those guys play special teams like crazy. I mean, that's just what they do. And you need depth at those spots because otherwise, I mean, you don't want Smile Monday running down on kickoff. I mean, not really. Um, but because listen, I don't know how many of y'all like work out or run or anything, but there's only so much your body can handle. I don't care how good a condition you are in. There's only so much that your body can do, and if you're just if you're sprinting down the field 60 yards and you're being asked the next play to make a play, you could probably do it, but you don't want to do that like 6 times in the game. Well, 6 times wouldn't be the end of the world because that means you're kicking off a lot. That means at least 5 scores, right? But you get my point. You want depth at certain positions. I mean, does it matter if you have depth at quarterback? Not if your starter's injury free the whole year. But do you need depth on the offensive line? You probably need depth on the offensive line. So there are certain places where it's really good to have it. Linebacker is a great spot to have it. Defensive line is a great spot to have it because those guys play a lot and they play really important position. Matt and I used to talk about this all the time, just like when we were driving around seeing kids or driving to games or whatever. But defenses get tired. The offense knows what's going to happen on a particular play. The defense doesn't. The defense can't guess. The offense knows exactly where they're going. The defense has got to, they can't guess. Like a 1 yard gain for the offense, that's a great play for the defense unless it's 3rd and 1. And even then it's a really good play, honestly, but they get 3 more downs after that. Defenses get tired. So what you're not wanting to have happen here is guys like Small Munden, C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson, Jalen Walker. I love Jalen Walker. Jalen Walker makes a ton of plays whenever he plays. Jalen Walker is the type of guy that all of a sudden they're a high-level draft pick. And you're like, wait a second, well, how did that happen? Well, have you been watching? I mean, the guy makes a lot of plays all the time. He consistently at Georgia has done has blocked kicks against Kent State. I think he may have had a block kick against, I don't know who. No, that wasn't him against Florida. He makes plays against TCU. I mean, he only had 20 tackles last year, but it seems like he pops up just when Georgia needs him, like his 2 sacks against Alabama in the SEC championship game. That's that matters. I mean, Jalen Walker is a lot better than I think people realize. And so, that's really all I have to say about that. But he's, sack in the national championship game, 2 sacks in the SEC championship game. I mean, that's a lot of production for somebody who's got 30 tackles a year. And I was like, well, maybe it was against Alabama. That game was tight the whole time. So I love him too. And then let me just say this. I mean, Chaz Chambliss was not mentioned in this article, and that's fine. And I know there's been like this online revolt against Chaz Chambliss. Chaz Chambliss does a great job, generally speaking, of setting the edge. And if you don't think that's important, go back and watch the 2018 Alabama SEC championship game where Brent Cox basically held hands with Hurts to make sure that he was getting first downs consistently. So you gotta set the edge. It's really important. And then you go play football, right? So I think that this is a really good group. You'd really rather have your defensive line be the number one thing on your team. The offensive line and the defensive line, you'd really rather that be. But look, having really good linebackers helps a lot. I mean, that's a really important thing. They are just, it's not that they're not good on the defensive line. They are. They are good. But are they dominant like they've been? No, I don't think so. But I mean, it's a little bit greedy after a while as which group is so good. I don't know, but these linebackers, they're definitely the real deal. Do they have Jalen and Jordan and Trayvon and et cetera in front of them? No, but they don't have a bunch of punks either.